Hello, and welcome to lecture number 9, Citing Sources. It's easy with citations to get caught up in following specific rules, but this lecture will go over some underlying concepts and tasks important to making citations correct, consistent, and usable. My examples will use APA format, but most of this information is widely transferable. This may not be the most exciting of topics, so go ahead and refresh your coffee. I'll start with concepts. In-text citations should align with reference citations. By that I mean, whatever your reference citation starts with is what you cite in text. Typically in APA, that's the author and the date. That's why it's important that you refer to sources by author and date, not the title, not the place it's published. I'll show a quick example from Student Example Lit Review number 9. You'll see that he refers to sources by the author and date in text, rather than the title or publication name. And then readers need to be able to take that author's name and then find it in the alphabetized references list for more information. If a source doesn't have an author, and you start the reference citation with the title, then the title is what you use in text. Next, consistent format makes citations usable. Why is adhering to established conventions important? Readers want the information they're looking for, where and how they're expecting to find it, to make sure they're getting what they need as quickly as possible. Next, differences between styles reflect disciplinary priorities. Notice that APA citations foreground dates, both on the references list and in text. And they only use last names in text and last names with first and middle initials on the references list. In contrast, MLA puts dates at the end of the works cited entries and does not include them in text, but they do use full first names. That's because the social science disciplines that use APA style tend to care about when studies were conducted, while the humanities disciplines that use MLA tend to care more about who the authors of a text are, and generally don't have as many names to fit into one citation. That's just a couple of examples of how differences between styles that seem arbitrary really aren't. Next, DOIs are stable digital addresses for scholarly articles. By stable, I mean you should be able to plug it into any internet browser and find that source even if the websites change. So DOIs can look a few different ways, but you'll be able to spot it on an article if it has one. And those go at the end of a reference citation, if there is one. Next, I'll move on to tasks. Read examples closely for patterns of detail. You don't need to memorize all the rules. What's more important is being able to look up examples and carefully observe all the details you need to emulate. Keep the reader's purpose in mind. That will help you make judgment calls when the rules don't give a clear-cut answer. Next, distinguish from big and small sources. Journal titles are formatted one way, journal articles another. Books are formatted one way, book chapters another. Thinking of big and small sources will help you remember the difference. Next, preserve the order of the authors. The authors put their name in a certain order for a reason, usually to signify who contributed the most. On the other hand, you should capitalize according to the style, not the source. It doesn't matter how the original article capitalizes titles. If you're using APA format, you capitalize the way APA wants. If you haven't gone to sleep yet, I'll make one final point about in-text citations. And that's the difference between integral and non-integral citations. So you'll see that in integral citations, the author's name and date, the citation itself, is integrated into the sentence. With non-integral, it's just put in parentheses at the end. Here's how they look with page numbers. Integral citations tend to be better for discussing the particulars of a source, while non-integral citations are better for just name dropping where something comes from. Non-integral tends to be more common in most scientific disciplines, but don't avoid putting the author's name in the sentence if it makes sense to. Thanks for making it to the end of the citation lecture. Activity 3.3 asks you to correct some incorrect citations. As always, let me know if you have any questions.